What is up, everybody? You're about to be hot dipped. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Jason Haines. And Mr. Jason Haines is special to us for a number of reasons. He is married to Mrs. Jamie Haines, who does human resources here, director of human resources. He is an area educator, which we very much appreciate. 28 years, I think.
28 years today, just finished.
That's right. Congratulations on successfully
you.
completing another year. He's been a very successful coach. He has been an athletic director. We have got a lot to talk about today, Mr. Haines. So how you doing?
Doing great. Like I said, we just got out of school and finished another school year, and it was good. It was a good year.
Awesome. And college at Truman, right, in Kirksville, as I understand it?
Yeah, so funny story about that. Here I am breaking into stories seconds into our first question. I was actually headed to a different college in Iowa. Always wanted to be a math teacher. And a friend of my cousin's was a professor at Truman. And he got to talking to me and asked me some questions. He goes, this was April, my senior year, mind you. And I'm headed to this other college. And he says, why don't you come check out Truman? So I did. And, well, the rest of the story is I got my degree at Truman and picked up a beautiful bride while I was there.
There was some divine intervention there, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
And I don't think it went by Truman, the name back then, right? That was one of those schools affected by a name change, wasn't it?
Yes. I think it was our third year there. They switched from Northeast Missouri State University to Truman State University. As a matter of fact, I think when Jamie graduated, she had the option of diploma Northeast or Truman. And then I was a semester behind her getting my undergraduate and then, of course, my master's thereafter. But I stuck with Truman just because I wanted to be the one that everybody knew what it was named as, not most people may not know what Northeast Missouri State was.
Right. Well, I'm kind of glad they changed the name, too. I think it fits. It's a very esteemed academic institution. I mean, they've got a lot of famous alumni. They have very high standards. I mean, it's a very good school, right?
It's an excellent school. Like I said, the Harvard of the Midwest, they refer to that. And it was difficult, but it was well worth the education, and I'm proud to say I'm an alum from there.
I have to bring my friend Nick in here. I think they're going to call Harvard the Truman of the East.
There you go. I like that. We're going to have to write that down and get that in a publication pretty quick.
You bet. Now, you said wanted to be a math teacher for a long time, and that's obviously not for everybody. And we're glad you chose that path. You're gifted when it comes to numbers, and you're gifted when it comes to teaching. But when you say forever, like literally as a child or maybe as a high school student, you're like, this is my path?
So if you interview any teacher, more than likely one of two situations has come up in their life. Number one, they've ran across that teacher that really inspired them. Or number two, they ran across a teacher that absolutely did not inspire them and they want to do better. Mine was the first. I had a math teacher in high school he was the world and meant the world to all of us. He made us all feel special. And he had a way of teaching us calculus, of all things, and we thought we were doing a regular mathematics problem. You know what I mean? He had a way of conveying it to us and having us even teach our classmates as well as we went. And to me, it was kind of struck a chord, and I was like, I want to do that. And I knew I wanted to coach. Athletics was a big part of my life growing up since the time I could crawl, and I knew I wanted to continue that. And I obviously wasn't good enough to go on to the next level, so that was my way of contributing and kind of staying involved.
Well, I've always thought in order to be successful in any walk of life, it's important at different stages in your life to be a mentor and also be a protege. It sounds like you had one heck of a mentor along the way.
Yeah, he was great. Funny side note on that, after I graduated, a year or two later, he went on to be a kindergarten teacher. So how you become a high school math teacher to a kindergarten teacher, I don't know, but he said it was something he always wanted to do. So, and I had a lot of great teachers along the way, not just one. There was a lot that showed me kindness and mercy and showed me how to convey and change things. I think if you ask most of my students, they'll tell you that I try to take something hard and try to break it down into something that's understandable, and that's my goal. Don't always accomplish that goal, but that's my goal.
I mean, you're literally dealing with Greek characters in your mathematic expression, so it's Greek to a lot of people. So
It really is Greek to a lot of people. Like I said in the assembly today, being the math teacher, you're not necessarily the easiest subject there, but I've been blessed to have a lot of students that work really hard and do a lot of learning.
And man, there's a sense of accomplishment when you finally understand and it clicks, right?
There is nothing better than a student that walks in, sees their test score that was an A, and they struggled and fought the fight, the good fight, and kept at it and kept getting help and kept getting better, and they get that A. It's just that smile that lights up on their face. It's fantastic.
That's right. And I keep thinking back to my high school academic career, and I had two amazing math teachers in high school, but they were amazing for different reasons. They were equally bright and gifted and commanded the mathematic field very well. But the first one, Mr. Beersman. So a shout out to Mr. Beersman for those that know him. I don't know if you knew Mr. Beersman.
I did not.
But he taught kind of the introductory courses, the first algebra courses and stuff. He understood the advanced stuff too. But he was amazing in that I felt like he was able to convey to every single student, this is how, he equally got through to, I think, the gifted student and the one that struggled. And then, you get through Mr. Beersman's course and you moved on to Mr. Arney. And I don't know if you know Don Arney.
I actually know, now that you said Beersman, I actually know both of them. I have a story on that in a minute.
I can't wait to hear that one. They're both remarkable. Mr. Arney, there are some students I remember that maybe weren't quite for Mr. Arney, but that was okay because you can get through the math if math wasn't your thing with Mr. Beersman. But Mr. Arney would take over on these advanced courses and between physics and took calculus and beyond calculus with him. And he was the right guy for that job. But the students, the composition of the class was just much different. But they were both equally important and both equally gifted. And I just didn't know what your style was. If you know how either of them teach, how would you compare?
My students probably say I'm tougher than most. I probably assign more work than most. But some would also say that it's probably that I can relate to all different learning levels. But that'd be an interesting question to ask my students, actually. That'd be kind of fun to hear the answer. I try to take tough subject, break it down into steps that are understandable so that they could, just like anything in life, when you're experiencing an issue, break it down into small steps to solve the problem. Next thing you know, you've got it solved. So that's the goal. I don't know if I necessarily pull that off all the time, but that's what we try to do.
You bet. So I got to ask you about these stories.
Okay,
about these two.
Mr. Beersman, his wife was a professor at Truman State University, and she was a statistics professor. I was her grader for 2 years. After you said that, it clicked on me. As a matter of fact, Mary Sue and her husband, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Elvis?
That's right.
Yep.
They actually came down to some of my basketball games when I coached.
Big basketball fans, yes.
They would show up at a district championship, or they would show up at a tournament, and all of a sudden, it was just great to see them. And they treated us so awesome. They would take us to dinner at the end of the year for grading. They didn't have to do that. They were fantastic people. So I actually, as soon as I didn't click at first, but then as soon as you said it, I know exactly who that is. So it's kind of neat how the world turned completely around, and now I teach 13 miles away from where he was. That's the way the world goes, right?
That's right. And one thing I've always been fascinated with is, good teachers like yourself and Mr. Beersman and Mr. Arney and so many others. Most of them, in fact, are amazing. But everybody goes through hard times, hard days, struggles, whether you're galvanizing and you're managing that process, or you're teaching and you're dealing with the most precious resource any of us have, our children, on a daily basis. How do you not show the world you're having a bad day and keep that positive attitude I've often said that I've made every mistake in the book, and one of them I make too frequently is I let my emotions get the best of me, and I can work really hard to build a culture I'm proud of, and then one bad moment could destroy that, one bad moment. And as a teacher, I think you're dealing with children, the effects of having a bad moment can be profound. How do you handle that?
As soon as you said that, absolutely. One bad moment with a student could literally change their entire life. They could turn them off to whatever it is you're trying to teach them, like they're going to shut down, or one good moment can change it, and they would jump through a brick wall for you. It is difficult. There are times when a situation, maybe groups of people that maybe not get along the best. You see this in the workplace too. It's dealing with humans, whether they're students or adults, can be challenging at times, but you have to learn to try to control your emotions. Try not to let your outside convey what you're thinking on the inside. You get frustrated at times, and especially in the classroom, there's times when you've taught a topic. 2 weeks later, we're talking about the same topic, and the student acts like they'd never seen it before, and you're like, now, wait a minute. On Monday, back in 2 weeks ago, at 2:43, I taught you this topic. I know better. So it is a challenge. The key is to try to think about the big picture. Don't try to focus on just that one moment. Don't let that one moment control what you're looking at. Your goal as a teacher or as a manager is to try to get your employees or the people you're in charge of to achieve their goals and to help them. Don't try to be the one that turns them the other way.
Oh, that's good advice, no matter what your walk of life is. And when I was talking to your wife, Mrs. Jamie Haines, when she was in here the other day, we were talking about what makes you two similar and what makes you two maybe a little different. And she talked about how you were a teacher, and I challenged her a little bit that she felt like that was a difference. I said, you have to have the spirit of a teacher to do what you do as well. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. We are opposites. There is no doubt opposites attracted there. Um, but in reality, on our jobs, we do a lot of the same thing. She jokes all the time that I teach the students in the classroom, and she teaches them as kids when they get adults, when they become adults, or not kids, but when they become adults, that she's teaching them there. So, there are a lot of similarities in HR and teaching. You sit back and you think about somebody that needs to be compassionate. They need to be selfless, put others first. They care about the good of the whole goal, whether it's success of the company or whether this kid figured out how to use the quadratic formula correctly. All those things, they kind of do sound very similar in topic. So she might not admit it that we do similar things, but no, because we definitely are opposites. As you know, she's not one to shy away from having a conversation with anybody, and I'm going to be the person sitting in the corner in the chair, just enjoying my peace and quiet.
Nice. And what brought you all to Salisbury? Had you ever heard of Salisbury before you guys moved there?
Yeah, that's another funny story, and a God thing. There's no doubt in my mind. Get my master's degree at Truman. You got your undergraduate degree. So I have a bachelor's in mathematics, and then my master's is in secondary math education. Looking for job placement, we did what's called an internship, and she was working in Columbia. I needed to go to summer school at Truman. We needed something somewhere in the middle, and Salisbury had a job opening, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Is Dr. Dorson the superintendent there?" And guess what name was on the paper of the person to contact? Dr. Dorson. He was friends of her family when they were living in Princeton and was her superintendent back then. So obviously it's a small world. We sat down, and I obviously put the application in, and we interviewed, and luckily for me, they picked me, and the rest, they say, is history. But there's no doubt in my mind that God knew where we needed to be, and so it was a blessing all along, and it made for some interesting commutes from Truman to Moberly. We lived in Moberly when we first got married, so I had a commute, she had a commute. It was kind of halfway, but it was definitely worth it, and it's kind of funny how that all came about. And now 28 years later, I think we're still going. I got at least one more. We'll see how many more after that.
Very good. And so, always been into sports, and you've been a coach. So what have you coached?
Oh my, get ready. This is a long list. Junior high softball head coach. I was a freshman girls and boys basketball coach, which acted as a third assistant for both teams at the same time. By the way, that was a challenge. We didn't have kids then, so it was a little easier. I've been a head girls basketball coach at Salisbury. I coached junior high track. I've coached, I know I'm forgetting something. Somebody's going to say something that they're going to remember. Obviously, the athletic director came about. I feel like there's one more that I'm forgetting. For the most part, I think I got it covered, but I've kind of covered the gamut. I was blessed to be able to coach junior high track a couple years. We had a faculty member that got sick, and the year had already started. Like, they were a week away from the season. I said, I'll do it. I'm coaching. I don't have anything in the spring. I'll do it. And I've loved it. And I think some of that excitement ran off onto my kids because they both participated in track.
And at a high level.
And now it has led to a business that we're running. So it's kind of one of those things where one thing led to another, and you know how the rest goes. So
You bet. So out of all of your coaching experiences, and I hate to put you on the spot like this, but we're having a lot of coaches in here, and we're interested in how we get high performance teams, especially relative to expectations, because it's very different having all your starters returning, come into it when they were good one year and the expectations are very high the next year, and that's one set of challenges. And then when you're rebuilding, it's a completely different set of challenges. But I don't care what sport you want to talk about, but can you think of examples that stand out in terms of a team that's overperformed their expectations? What made that team special?
I told you this beforehand. There's one team that sticks out as far as overachieving, but I'm gonna back up. So you said that high expectations. When I took over as head girls basketball coach, there was a Hall of Fame coach, Dennis Humphrey, who had a big part in my career and helped me so much along the way.
Banners on the wall, right?
Yeah, banners on the wall, and I believe they're naming the court after him here this summer. So
Nice.
obviously it was tough shoes to fill, and the first team I ever had, they were coming off a 22, I think, win season, and I had 3 of those starters back, So expectations were really high going in, and I was young and, you know what they say, not just naive with going through all of it. And but we eked out a district championship. The only one I actually coached received, I think. I have to go back and look, but I think that was the only district championship we ever won was the first year. So there's an example of a team that had high expectations and actually lived up to and probably succeeded where we thought we could go, And then on the other end of that, so my last year as head varsity basketball coach, we had a really, really, really successful, matter of fact, we ended the year ranked 3rd in state. That tells you how good we were. We lost our first game, and our last game was a district championship. Had a very successful team, and we graduated almost everybody off that team. We had like 1 returning starter and 1 kid that had played a little bit, you know what I'm saying? We had some pieces there. So we were able to, going into the year, people were picking us 500, sub 500. We ended up winning 20 games. The girls just really bought into, I really think that it was more of a challenge for them. They wanted to see what they could do, And next thing you know, we just one win after another, and all of a sudden, oh, we're in the state rankings. Oh, all of a sudden we're playing a district championship. It was so fun to see a team that had those expectations not as high, and to come out of it to be completely successful. Whether they think they were or not, I'm here to tell you on this end, they were definitely successful.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent story, and appreciate hearing about those teams and what it is that makes them great and able to exceed expectations. I've had this theory, and and a lot of my friends that are coaches share this theory that the best teams, the most successful teams, no matter how good or what kind of style the coach uses, they tend to be player-led teams. Do you agree with that? And if not, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
So I grew up old school. I mean, the era that I grew up in, as far as when you did something wrong, coach usually let you know it right away. And usually wasn't, hey, you messed up. You know what I mean? Usually it was very, he yelled at us, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, things have changed dramatically. I tried not to be that way, but I'm sure if you ask my players, they might tell you differently. But honestly, a team that's very successful that I have noticed through coaching, through athletic director, sometimes just observing, you can see a team that if they all believe in each other and they all believe the common goal that they're trying to achieve, you'd be shocked to see what people can do. Reminds me of the story Facing the Giants, where the kid is on the football field, the scene where he's got the other kid on his back and he's crawling. He says, just go 10 yards. And then he pushed him a little more. Next thing you know, he'd gone the entire football field. Didn't even know it. If you could get people to buy in, to work together, there's another key, especially in today's society with so much, I know I'm going to sound like an old man here, but so much, all the different social media things and things that happen that never happened 20 years ago. It's hard to keep everybody on the same page and everybody going in the same direction. But you see it even in the NFL, NBA, NHL. Teams that are successful are teams that are willing to fight for each other and to help each other out. And usually when that happens, success is not far from it.
That's right. Well said. I was talking to Jeremiah before we stepped in here. He's a big track guy, as you know, just like you are. And I appreciate speed and strength and power as much as the next guy. I don't really understand track the way you guys do it, and you've lived it so long at a very intimate level. We're going to get into that. But I was asking him, in basketball especially, there's this thing we call March Madness where, you think you have an idea who the better teams are, then March happens, and sometimes a team gets hot and the balls going through the hoop and they advance farther than you think they will in a tournament. I was asking, like in track, do you see that very often where you kind of know people's PRs and their records, and you're going into a 100-meter dash, whatever the event is, and my theory was you probably know these are the 5 best runners, and you're usually right. But I don't know that. I mean, what are your thoughts? Are there sometimes upsets in track meets, and if so, what leads to that?
Yeah, just like in any sport, in track you can have a good day and you can have a bad day. I mean that's the way it happens. You also could have a good weather day and a bad weather day. On my end, as far as the timing company is concerned, I have seen kids that were the best seated person going in didn't even qualify for the next round. I've seen that actually multiple times, and we've got to be on the positive side of that, I guess. My daughter, her freshman year in the 400, knocked a girl off that was an all-stater the year before to qualify for state. So it can happen. There's a lot of variables there. Is it weather related or health related, or did somebody go in thinking they had it? They didn't give it all. That happens some in track too. And it happens in basketball.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've all seen the team that I'm talking college basketball. As I just live. March Madness is a holiday at our house for an entire month. It's fantastic. But once again, people buying in. Ball goes through the hoop, makes it easier. Next thing you know, they've got a W, and the number 1 seed's going home. For the Kansas fans out there, was it Bucknell? Is that right? Is that the team?
Yes.
I thought so. I just had to make
I need
sure.
to get that jersey.
I had to remind those Kansas fans that are watching of Bucknell.
I appreciate that. You could cheer for Iowa as long as you're willing to put Kansas in their place, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, remember, I have a son that goes to Mizzou, so we're not even allowed to use the Kansas word in our house. So, it's it's quite the rivalry. It's the same thing if you live in the state of Iowa. You're either an Iowa fan or that other school that's in Ames, which I'm not allowed to say. And
Nice.
I have family that have graduated from that other school too as well. So
Man, makes family time interesting.
we have a good time. Usually there's a little bit of trash talking going on. Yeah,
That's one of the things that makes sports so fun, if we're being honest.
as long as it's healthy.
Yes.
It's fun to kind of kid around with people, and you got to be. It has to be healthy. You can't be derogatory and really painful.
Boy,
towards
some do
people.
take it too far.
Oh,
I mean,
way too far. If you don't believe me, go sit in the bleachers behind a dugout of a Major League Baseball game, and they're making fun of people's families or instances where they did something wrong. And, man, it's just that's where it goes too far.
Yeah.
But to joke with your buddies who graduated to different schools, I think that's all in good fun.
You bet it is. And even younger, unfortunately, I've seen some things. I think we all have. I mean, most people are good people. I fundamentally believe that. But I think we've all been to a youth sporting event where maybe somebody's getting onto a ref or an umpire or a kid, for goodness sake. And sometimes that's just out of line.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had to deal with that a little bit. I have been on both sides of that as far as the coach side, and I've been on the athletic director side as admin. And they're not very fun conversations. And sometimes that it's a difference of opinion. Is that a safe thing to say?
Mm-hmm.
That maybe they didn't feel they pushed it too far, but in reality, they probably did. We've seen a big decline in referees, all sports. About 10 years ago, the average age of a track starter was like 72. And so if you're doing the math, they're obviously aging out and not doing it anymore. We got to get some younger people involved. And how do you do that? And, basketball, I think, is the hardest sport to officiate because you're right on top of the action, and everybody is an expert if you ask them, whether they played basketball or not. So it's very difficult to do. So we've definitely seen that. I always tried to encourage people that did that to try to put yourself in their shoes. Or better yet, maybe in a summer game, that person that sits in the front row yelling in the basketball game, how about for the summer league, you decide to officiate and see how
Pick
that
up that
feels
whistle,
to the
see how
other
it goes. Yeah.
side. As I told people jokingly, it is an open book test for the state of Missouri to become an official. I'd be happy to help you pass it if you need to. Sometimes when the shoe's on the other foot, you see the other side, and it's interesting how the story changes when the shoe's on the other foot.
It does indeed. Now, if we can talk a minute about track, could you tell everybody a little bit about this business that you're a part of and what it is you guys do?
So you want origin or you want just the business?
A little bit of both, man, because
Okay.
I'm going to follow this up with some more specific track questions.
Okay, very good. Well, I don't remember the year, but as the athletic director, obviously at Salisbury, we hosted track meets. We had seen Marceline get the first FAT system. It's called FAT system. It's what's called fully automatic timing system. And so kind of West Strand got one. Lance Massey is a good friend of mine. He's the principal there. Aaron O'Laughlin was the athletic director there. Is a good friend of mine. Obviously, we worked quite a bit back and forth. In the process of Salisbury gaining a system, I kind of went over and learned the ins and outs with them. Salisbury gets the system. I teach our people how to run the system. Even at West Strand meets, I was going over and helping those guys out, just run it, just so I could kind of get the backstory. We're going to a conference track meet, and I wish I remember the year. I don't remember the year, but we used to run prelims, and we were hand timing. There was a tie for for eighth place for the last transfer spot to the finals by a hand timed with two kids that ran in two different heats. You can imagine the pain that the one side and the elation of the other. And right then and there, I talked to Lance and Aaron. I said, next year we're timing this. This we can't have this. Next year was at Schuyler County. We luckily loaded up. West Strand gave us permission to use their system. We loaded up. This was for no money. We were just doing this out of the good.
Want to get the results right.
Exactly. To get the results right. We're sitting there at Schuyler. Things went really well. He goes, would you guys be able to come back and do our track meets next year? And we're like, sure. And then we kind of did a little investigation. It's like, well, we have to have our own system. We can't use school equipment to do that because if we're doing something for money, we can't use school property and that kind of thing. And so luckily for us, Marceline was selling their system. They upgraded. And so we bought their old system. We taped together a couple computers, which, by the way, I don't even know how that ran, but they did. We did 2 track meets for Schuyler. They absolutely loved it. The coaches around there were like, you made that easy. Could you come to our track meets the following year? And now you know the rest of the story. I don't have the official count. I believe we are doing our 74th track meet this spring.
Wow.
On Saturday at the Class 5 District 4 track meet in Helias. So
that's impressive.
It has blossomed. We now have 4 complete systems. We could go 4 people out in one day. As far as we do 4 track meets a day if we need to. It's a blessing. It's come at the perfect time for me. I'm about to retire from teaching. I'm going to need something to keep me occupied while Mrs. Haines is still working. And it's been a blessing. Like I say, it's fun to see it grow. My goal at a track meet is to see the athletic director or admin either eating a bag of popcorn with their feet up or drinking a diet soda or something. If I see that, that means we've been successful. We've done our job. We're trying to take the pressure off of them and help them in all the ways we can. And it helps that we've all coached track. We're 2 of us were ADs, one of us a principal. As far as that, we know how much of a challenge it is to put on a track meet. And if anybody says it's not, schedule one and let's see how it goes.
I couldn't imagine so many moving pieces.
There are a lot of moving pieces and parts, and they all have to coordinate at the exact same time to make it worthwhile. And it's just something that we've luckily figured out on our end. And I'm not saying it's perfect all the time because it's not, but we try our hardest to make it as easy on the admin and the school that hired us as we possibly can.
So you're talking about getting accurate results. That's priceless. But then you're also talking about economic value added, right? I mean, I would assume the cost of every school in the area buying their own equipment is insane. And you could provide the capital equipment and schedule it in such a way that you're utilizing it, not requiring all this outlay of cash from folks that don't have a lot of extra cash laying around, and you're getting accurate result for the student athletes. It just sounds like a win-win.
It is. And like I said, it's a blessing. It came at the right time. And once again, another God thing. He lined things up to make it right for us. And we've been fortunate. Like I said, we've been able to, I think our cameras go down to 1,000th of a second, if I remember right. I'd have to look that up. Pretty sure it's 1,000. It might be even 10,000. It's
pretty precise.
You can get real size. Yeah, you can see a cricket cross.
You're really not going to see these ties, are you? Have you ever seen one with this equipment?
We've had so we'll have let me step back. Our athlete.net, which is what we use to post our results, there's ties to 100th, but on that same tie, it takes it to 1,000th and breaks it.
You just
within
dig in
1,000th.
a little deeper to the data.
Yep. And how we access those, it puts the line exactly. It takes it out to 1,000th, and I think it's 10,000. I have to check on that one. I know it's at least 3 decimals. I want to say it was 4.
In the event that it is really close, do you get those results super fast still, or is it a minute to hold on, everybody? We got to review this.
There are a couple of times. Matter of fact, last week, 2 weekends ago, I had one where I had to tell the starter, "Hang on, just a second. I need to take a second look at this," because they were right on top of each other, and you could go frame by frame. And usually, frame by frame, you could see a clear winner over the other. Do you remember the last Olympics, where they had was it the 100 that they had the quote unquote tie in,
Yeah, I think
and then
so.
they went and looked at the video, and yeah, I mean, I've seen some pretty tight ones, and now we're into postseason, so we're talking kids that are advancing. That could be a difference between a kid advancing and not. So you want to make sure you get it right.
Yep. And I was never a phenomenal track athlete. I mean, I enjoyed competing, but one of the things I remember most about track growing up was going to basketball games. We're going to compete in basketball games, and for whatever reason, maybe it's still that way, maybe not, you can see all the track records at the basketball gyms, typically around here at least. And you would think to yourself, man, this school is legit. Look at those track records. And and I keep thinking to myself, some of these records are from a time when and maybe some of them still don't. You just wonder how accurate they are. And I even have a friend, not going to say his name, that believes his name should still be on one of these boards because I just don't trust that this other person actually beat my record. And there's going to be less of that with this technology, right?
Yeah, it is. There will be. I mean, and you brought up a great point. So we have a young man at Salisbury that's broke the 100 record. Actually, broke it from his grandpa, which was back in I want to say 82 was the year.
We must be talking about the White family and Mike and those guys.
It stuck there a long time, and his grandson come through and broke it last year, and he's blown it way out of the water now.
He's fast.
That one's going to hang on for a while, I think. So, yeah, it is. Makes you wonder how accurate those really were because, if you ever watch a 100 meter, I about said 100-yard, 100-meter dash and sit at the finish line and try to pick who actually won, good luck, because they come across real fast. And if it wasn't for our computer technology that we use, I don't know how you would do it.
Same thing with like horse races. I mean, occasionally I don't watch a lot of horse races, but you'll watch, the finish of the Kentucky Derby, and sometimes you have to replay it multiple times. Yeah. Okay, which one did cross first?
Yeah, and they're looking at certain parts. So there's rules at different, whether it's horse racing or auto racing or whatever, there's rules of what crosses first is what gets it. It's so funny. I had a picture of a kid the other day was leaning with the baton in a relay race. Well, what they don't know is it goes back to their chest. So
I was just getting ready to ask you that. Like, I don't know. Maybe everybody listening to this does but me, but how do you win a race? What body part matters when you're running track?
So it's a line through the chest area. So yeah, if you go back to the Olympics, they actually drew it through the back of the guy's head and straight down the body. If you go back and look.
So just extending that hand does nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. Although it makes for some good pictures. I have had a few good photo finishes at the end as far as a race kid will turn and laugh or turn and look at you and smile after he ran a mile. And I'm like, man, dude, I couldn't even run a mile, let alone walk a mile. And here you are turning and laughing at me. So there's been some good pictures. I can tell you that.
I'm sure your kids were the right age. You ever see the movie Cars?
I have.
Lightning McQueen wouldn't have liked your system very much. He stuck that tongue out, didn't he, to get the tie?
The tongue broke the tie, and unfortunately, I don't think NASCAR would go for that. I think it goes by, and I don't know the official rules, but it has to go with where the transponder is in the vehicle, I think. I could be wrong. Or maybe it's the front nose clip. They take a certain part on the car.
You have to define it very specifically. Otherwise, there's this controversy that happens.
You don't want gray rules. It's one or the other.
You need to know before everybody races.
Yes. Make up rules afterwards is not good for arguing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Have you done any officiating in any sport?
So I've done some summer basketball. Actually, when the kids were born, I was a Misha softball umpire, and I did that for 3 or 4 years. I'd gotten out of when I became the head girls basketball coach. I gave up junior high softball. It was too much time. And then the kids came along, and I said, we need some money for some Christmas presents. I'm going to pick up officiating softball. Loved it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It kept me in the game. And it was a nice Christmas bonus at heading in the right time. Jamie liked it when I got paid and handed her here you go, here's Christmas.
Nice.
So,
But so officiating, how often would you run into? I'm sure many times folks disagree with the call. They're going to let you know that. Hopefully, most of the time, very respectfully. And as a coach, sometimes you maybe don't understand what they saw versus you. But how often would even a coach who you expect to have pretty good knowledge of a game, maybe they were right about what they saw, but they just didn't understand the rules, and having that diplomatic conversation, like, yeah, that is what you saw, but you're not interpreting it right.
It happens, believe it or not. You see it more with fan base than you would a coach.
Of course.
Usually a coach would have enough tact to take that conversation either outside the venue, you know what I mean, as away from,
because you're not going to change a call that's already happened.
You're not going to go back and add a run in the 5th inning when you're already out of the card in the JV game. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But there's some instances where I had a few situations in a parking lot that you had to, because in softball, see, you got ready in the parking lot. There was no room for you to get ready in. So if you're switching between varsity and JV games, you're out there putting equipment, the home plate guy's taking off his equipment, and the one that was out in the bases is putting it on. And so there's a few times when athletic director had to shoo some people away because they were trying to give their opinion of the situation, and most of the times those opinions weren't very accurate.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't really remember all the specifics, and I hope I'm not wrong here, but I feel like in the last year or two, I think it was this past year, in high school basketball, like I think state playoffs, there was an official scoring issue, and they had to come back and finish something. Is that accurate? Do you know what I'm talking about? Or
I do, and I'm wanting to say it happened this year in the quarterfinals.
That sounds about right.
It was a school out of St. Louis, and I might be wrong. What was it, Principia maybe?
That's what I was going to say.
I think it was.
We can try to fact check that
later. And they
later.
went back and had to pick up from where it left off, I think. Wasn't it? Isn't that right?
Very much like the Pine Tar game when George Brett played baseball those years ago, yes.
And I know one year that our boys went to state in basketball, I think that happened down south somewhere in the state of Missouri. And
Really?
after that moment, I think the rules changed where they can go back and pick up where that left off.
And I'd have to think it's a very rare thing, but a very frustrating thing for all involved.
Right. I mean, you've traveled to the game. Most of the time when you're at the sectional or quarterfinal level, those are games you've traveled an hour, 2 hours to get to. Fans have paid their way in. Fans have, you go out to dinner when you're on your way home. There's a lot of expense there. So, yeah, definitely. And for the schools, you're trying to plan whoever wins. And if you can't plan, that makes that really hard.
We were both sitting in the gymnasium today at Salisbury School. It was the awards ceremony, last day of school, as we said earlier. And I just couldn't help but looking around. There's a lot of banners on the wall there, and many of them are in your tenure, their last 28 years. Do you have any specific memories you'd like to talk about of just outstanding achievements at Salisbury School from an athletic perspective?
We are blessed at Salisbury to have the amount of postseason accolades that we've had. Matter of fact, they had to make the trophy case bigger down the hallway. I think
Jay
Thompson, who I think is one of them, he just added a whole row of trophy cases, and that's a lot of those have been since we've been here. Not all of them, some of them obviously go back before us, but from the tenure that I've been here, there's been some really good athletes go through and some really good coaches, and they've been able to put a lot of good moments together. I tease my daughter. She has more state medals than I'll ever dream about because she went in track and state medal, was an all-state track runner, and then was fortunate to be on 2 state championship softball teams. So, yeah, it's been a good ride. It's been a fun ride. I always like to see kids come together and to achieve something big that, they probably may have said, that's not possible to be any, and then at the end, here they are on top. That's really cool.
Yeah, so what do you attribute that to, the success recently, the recent run of success? And I would say it extends further than just the athletic competitions. I was listening to some of the academic accolades, and they're impressive there too, but it feels like there's some positive momentum and maybe a culture of winning, if for lack of a better term, in Salisbury right now. Would you agree with that? And if so, what do you think is causing that, driving that?
Well, and you could even look in the area. Look at some of the area schools. You go to the successes that some area schools have had as well. It's not just Salisbury. I think a lot of it has to do with we have a lot of people that are able to have a tight family, a relationship. most of the kids walking the hallway could tell you their grandparents or where their grandparents grew up or where their parents grew up. They're from here already. And so they're able to keep the generations together and close, and they build on that. We go back, I was talking about Braden there earlier, Braden White, his grandpa set the school record, and his dad probably could have set the school record over that,
No doubt.
And so, and here they are, they're still there, So, I can't put my finger on it. I just been blessed. That's all. I've gotten to enjoy the ride and getting to see them perform well. So there has been a lot of success since we've been around, academic and athletic. Look at the kids that had won state competitions, FBLA, FCCLA. Our Scholar Bowl team went to state for the first time this year. Yeah, it's been great.
You bet it has. And I think you're right about, Salisbury is exceptional. But I think the whole area seems to be trending that way. We had Brunswick. We were going to have another Brunswick coach in here. We recently had Shelby in here, and they've had a lot of success there as well. And Western has, and of course Glasgow. I mean, these districts around here, they can give you a pretty good indication of at least a couple of the teams that might be in the Final Four in basketball almost every year. It seems like
it's pretty safe to say that somebody in this 3-county area is going to be representing in the state tournament basketball in one way or another, year in, year out. It's been crazy. Well, this year we had Brunswick and Salisbury. Well, we were against the quarterfinals. I'm going back to quarterfinals, not the Final Four. But
right.
It's been a fun ride, and it's good to see. And it's crazy how one geographic area can have the success that it has. But as long as the families stay. To do that, you have to have jobs. And to have jobs, they're willing to make sacrifices. And one of my all-time favorite things that I'm going to say about jobs is I teach with a ton of my former students. I could go down the hallway and former student. That's a blessing on itself. That means that they thought enough of the school when they went through that you were a part of, that they're willing to come back and do that themselves. And we're seeing a bunch of families move back to the area that graduated from the area, went off, worked for a while. Now their kids are in school, and they're wanting their kids to come to that same environment that they had.
Realize it's a pretty good upbringing. I want to share that with my kids.
Don't get me in trouble, Brett.
No doubt. But okay, so just thinking about how sports have evolved over time, and I think they have. I mean, maybe you disagree, but growing up, man, the way we learned sports for the most part, yeah, we did the occasional camp, or maybe there was a couple team events during the summer, but get down to the park, stay outside until it's dark, come in and eat supper. And, you don't want to be the one calling foul down at the park. You had to be pretty bloodied up. It was tough, but it wasn't very refined. And, maybe didn't learn the fundamentals the way they do now, but feels like anymore it's year round. And to be successful at the highest level, there's a huge investment in money and traveling and all those things. And I don't know if one way is better than the other, but it does feel like it might be harder to participate in all the sports because you to not fall behind with one particular sport, you don't have time to do the others. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but do you have any thoughts? Could you comment on the situation?
That has started, like you said, back in the day, let's just take our kids, for example, our football kids. They started practice in the 1st of August. They went clear to November. The next week they're playing basketball. They were successful there, got into March, started baseball and track immediately. So we have kids that have gone, well, even softball. I could throw softball in that same category, right? We've had kids that have almost gone, 300 days straight, And so it's evolved. I think technology has changed a little bit as far as that. Not meaning like things that they could do to help them get better, but I'm thinking of more access to it. They could see the scores and they could see the things like that. I think that's changed things. But like you said, if you got a kid playing 3 sports right now and they have 20 contact days in the summer, 3 times 20 is 60. Mm-hmm. That's your summer. Mm-hmm. And that there's a fine line. And I know that there's been talk of backing that down. Let the kids have a little bit of a summer and let them kind of spend more time being a kid. I know that there are some kids that come to school in August that are just tuckered out because they played things all summer, and now they're into their fall season, and here we go again. But it's a short term, right? It's a short spurt. It's 4 years. And they're a little more resilient than us 50-year-olds.
No doubt about that. But
They can do a little more. But on mom and dad, it's a late night getting home at midnight
it
and washing
can
a
be.
ball uniform and being at the field at 8 a.m. the next day.
That's right. But even the competition amongst the same team for playing time to push each other to get better. I know I've heard some coaches say, and correctly, if somebody wants to get more playing time, there's some travel teams you could play. You could do that on top of everything you just said. Now, if you want to earn that playing time, you want to get better outside of that, what we're already doing, the way to get there is to put in more time. The way we would put in more time, I assume you too, growing up, was going to the park, maybe a show me state team or something, but kind of did it on your own. But now there's organized opportunities for that, and so sometimes to get that playing time, to earn that spot, it's even more than what you described, right?
Right. I know softball does a lot of that. You've got a daughter
Yes.
doing that, and our daughter did that as well. We had a great experience with it. I'm not saying that it was great. Probably led to our camping addiction that we have. So it is. It's hard for a kid to specialize in one thing now. And there are studies out there that say that that's good, and there are studies out there that say that's bad.
Where do you fall on that?
I think a well-rounded athlete is better than somebody that specializes in one. I think you're more apt for injury when you specialize in one sport because you're working the same muscles. You're not working all your muscles. You're just working the same one. I think of a kid that pitches, for example. You're putting tension on your elbow, and if you're pitching for 300 days out of the 365 of the year, that could lead to overuse injury. I think of a kid that's a quarterback, same thing. Or a baseball pitcher. That's not a natural motion. You're literally tearing your muscle every time you throw a ball because it's an overhand motion, and our bodies aren't made to do that. So, I think there's overuse injuries when you specialize. Do I have data to back that up? No, but I've seen a lot of. And of course, we're in Salisbury. We've been blessed where we have kids that play all the sports. So it's nice to see a kid that's a well-rounded athlete. Step up and have success on different places. But it is a challenge, and there's a lot of money spent on it too. As far as that's concerned, you're talking the travel teams, and I know that of situations. Now, I don't know them personally, but there's people that hop in an airplane on Friday, fly to California, play in a softball tournament to fly back.
Wow,
that's
a
a
whole
lot of
nother level.
expense.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it can be taxing, and taxing on the family too.
Yeah. No. So, what's your opinion? What's your advice for those? Because a parent is tasked with raising their kids to the best of their ability, and we are all going to be fierce defenders of our children. Probably see things in our children that maybe more objective people might not see. I'm sure it's happened, even from really good people over the years. Heck, I've been a part of this on both sides, where you want to talk to a coach, no matter if they're younger or older, and be like, "Man, my kid deserves some playing time. They should be playing." And maybe you don't quite agree. Do those conversations usually go okay? And what's your advice to a coach because everybody wants that conversation to go okay. Everybody wants you want to look out for that kid, but all the kids and do what's best for the team. So how do you handle those situations when somebody thinks their kid deserves more?
First off, don't have it right after the game. That's the absolute worst time. I always did a 24-hour rule. Let it. Both sides need to sleep on it. As a coach, if you feel like you're being attacked as a parent right off the court or the field or whatever it happens to be, and you might say something that you might regret later. And it just happens because you're caught up in the heat of the game and you're still remembering the game. And that may have been the last thing on your mind, that Johnny's parents are coming to see me to argue about playing time right after the game got over. So 24-hour rule was mandatory when I was both athletic director and a coach. And I told my parents that right up front. I said, listen, 24-hour rule. Everybody wants it to go perfect, but unfortunately, when you're talking about somebody's, kids, money, and religion, is that the three things you're not supposed to talk
rails,
about?
Man.
Usually two of those are involved in the kid's sport, right? They've spent money and you're talking about their kid.
Yeah.
So it can be a challenge. There are definitely some positives. I've seen a situation where it didn't look like it was going to go very well from the beginning, and they left shaking hands and everybody was happy. So, and
That's
I've
a win.
seen where you think everybody's going to go okay, and next thing you know, you're getting called to the principal's office because something happened. So yeah, it's a challenge for a young coach. I think the key is to put some space first off from the game. Don't do it right away. Don't have that conversation right away. Try to find somebody that's done it before you as a mentor to help you walk you through that. I was blessed to have John Hoover as an athletic director while I was the head coach of girls basketball. Yeah, I followed the two legends. Wasn't that smart of me? Yeah, real smart, wasn't it? But John, I love him to death. He was fantastic. He would never. If he felt something was going to happen, he would try to be right there beside you, and he'd always try to change the subject so that. And people just loved John. I mean, they would just, oh, okay, you want to talk cheeseburgers? All right, we'll talk cheeseburgers instead of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was. I was fortunate, like I said, I was blessed, so it was easy for me at that point. But then, like you said, when I took over, that was hard to do. Follow two legends right after back to back, but. I think the key is to just put distance, especially for young coaches, because more than likely the parent's probably older than you are, you know, and so they think that they're going to be able to persuade you because you are young. And then for the older coaches, some of us old dogs are hard to teach new tricks to. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we get a little stubborn in our ways, but to listen and be active listener, and you know, everybody wants the same. They want their kid to do as best as they possibly can. What role that is. That's where the difference comes in.
Walk me through, how different would it be if a kid came up to you and said, you know, I'm not playing much. I want to play more, and I think I can contribute. How can you help me get there? What do I need to do to get there? And how different is that conversation than coming up and saying, my kid deserves to play. You should be playing him instead of Joe or whoever, Jill. And I imagine as a coach, I've been a coach, I just feel like it might go a little smoother if the player owns it and comes, because I'm kind of be a little impressed with the player to have the guts to come up and talk about that and how he wants to improve or she wants to improve.
Absolutely. As a coach, I would always listen to one of the players to come to talk to me about playing time. It was difficult when the parent came. It was a completely different conversation. Usually the kid was trying to find out what can I really do to get better? I'm trying to get more playing time. And you know, and sometimes, you know, in basketball it was hard. You can only put 5 on the floor at the same time. You know, that was difficult. Track's a little easier because the stopwatch or the timing system usually doesn't lie, right? It's accurate. Whoever's fastest is going to
very
get
objective.
Yeah. Yes, it's very. That's why I like it so much. I'm a pretty objective
You're
guy.
a math guy.
I am, I know. But you know, in softball you have 9, and sometimes you could use 10, and then if you have a pinch runner, sometimes 11. So basketball, it was difficult. You know, there were times where. Well, I take, for example, one of the kids that I had on my first basketball team as I was head coach, didn't get to play much the year before as a junior. Matter of fact, played quite a bit of JV because there was a group of kids in front of her that were better than her, you know, and it was, and then she turned out to be all district, she had all sorts of accolades, was a Crest All-Star. She was fantastic, but she had to wait her turn, you know, and that happens sometimes, especially in basketball with 5 kids. Or golf. I think golf, they get 5, 7. It's one of those. I'd have to go back and look, but you know, it's one of course, with their golf, the best score wins, right? It's lowest score is going to be the one out there, but it's interesting how you asked about the kid. I would always be willing to listen to the kid, not more, but it would mean more to me as a coach if a player came to me than as a parent.
Yeah, so maybe might be some advice wrapped into that, like parents or kids, if you're frustrated, maybe formulate a plan for the kid to own it.
Yeah, like I said, as a coach, on my end, it was always nice when the player came and asked, and it happened a few times. So, and as a coach, you also have to give constructive advice. You know, don't just brush it off. That kid has taken a giant leap. They are putting a big risk, you know, coming to you and talking to you. So don't take it for granted, you know. Try to give them constructive advice. Say, hey, if you would learn to drill with your left hand more and could get to the rim, we could get you on the floor a little more. Or if you'd play a little better defense and slide your feet and stop the defense, you're doing a really good job on offense, but you're hurting us on defense. You know, give them something. Don't just brush it off. That's important too. There are both sides to every story. What is it my wife says? There's always 2 sides to every story, and the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. Isn't that what she says?
She does.
I think that's so I'm going to borrow one of her phrases there.
Good deal. So I've always wanted to ask you this question.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know if it's just because of how great they were when you were getting interested in the NFL, but how are you a Broncos fan, man?
John Elway was on Channel 13 every afternoon. 3:00. It was pretty easy. And I had an older brother who became a Broncos fan, and I kind of watching John. I still go back and watch The Drive. I don't know if you know the I can't remember the year, 88, 89 against the Browns in the AFC West playoff.
Do.
That makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up right now. It was fantastic. Then they went and got stomped in the Super Bowl, but it was worth every second watching it. You just kind of latched on to Team Southwest Iowa. We didn't have a professional football team. That's where I grew up, and the Bears were on at 12, and the Broncos were on at 3, and I did not like the Chicago Bears. Still don't like the Chicago Bears. No offense, Ed. I'm sorry. But, yeah, so the Broncos were on TV, and John Elway was slinging the ball everywhere, and I was like, I could get behind this guy. This is pretty fun to watch.
He had
And
a
sure
cannon
enough,
for an arm.
and then he wins the Super Bowl not with his arm, but with his legs and the legs of Terrell Davis. That's what was cool. They worked all those years trying to sling it, and they found out running it was the key.
That's right. They always had an amazing offensive line. I mean, this isn't exactly true, but it felt like you could put anybody back there and they'd rush for 1,000 yards because the holes were enormous.
Yeah, late in John Elway's career, I think the Broncos knew that they had to get an offensive line to protect him. The beginning of his career, he was running for his life half the time. Half the time, he's kind of like Patrick Mahomes, creating on his own. And so they knew late in life. And I think you see the Chiefs starting to do that too right now. They know that they have to protect him because he can't do what he used to be able
coming
to
off
do.
this knee injury, you bet.
And I noticed that Chiefs-Broncos week 1, is that what I saw?
Sure, I haven't looked at it yet, but I believe you.
Monday Night Football, Chiefs
Darn
Broncos.
it. He won't even be all the way better. I might have to lose to the Broncos and deal with you after that. I mean, I don't know if
I was good this year. I didn't say much.
No, because you know what came before, but I know what came before that. But I do have to bring up, because I didn't like the Broncos growing up because he was so good, and I was a Chiefs fan. I still am a Chiefs fan, even though they're moving to that other state.
That's a state we can't mention.
That's right. Yeah, I won't give them that kind of publicity. But when you say The Drive, as a Chiefs fan from Missouri, I have a very different definition of The Drive. And I remember a game when Joe Montana came in as a Chief. His best football was behind him, but I don't know, 80% of Joe Montana is still pretty freaking unbelievable. And one of the best football games I've ever seen in my life was in Mile High State. I think it was Mile High.
It was.
And Elway had iced that game. I think with his legs again, maybe not. But anyway, Elway scored late and took the lead, and Montana calmly went and took it back at the end of the game. And it was one of the best football games I ever saw. And back then the Chiefs never won in Mile High, but they did then. It was amazing. I was happy. You were sad. But what do you remember about that game?
I was in the Commons at Truman State University. I think I was at a study group. We were studying for a test, and it was on the big screen. And I was like, "Oh, that's too much time for Montana." I knew something bad was going to happen, and I'm not 100% sure Mrs. Haines. Well, wasn't Mrs. Haines at the time. Pretty sure she was with me. We were studying for a test for something, and it was on this TV, and I was like, "Oh." She didn't let me live it down. But if you remember a couple years later, was it Neil Smith ended up coming back to the
that hurt. I
Broncos?
mean, Derek Thomas.
And he did the bunny hop coming off the field as they beat him on the divisional
Yeah.
championship. So, anyway, I'm just messing.
I had to take my little small victories, and that was a big one. But, I mean, Denver was the dominant player in the West, AFC West back then. And it's weird, if you look back at the history of the AFC West, it feels like it's a very streaky division.
It is.
When somebody's good, it's hard for them to get knocked down. But when they get knocked down, usually somebody rises, and then it's hard for them to get knocked down.
Well, and think about this. When we grew up, what was the other team in the AFC West?
Oh,
the
man.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And look what they've done the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Could you imagine all those teams in one conference? Holy cow.
Bananas.
So, it was – and the Raiders, when we were kids, were really good.
I really didn't like – we can agree on that.
Yeah.
We don't like the Raiders.
Nobody likes the Raiders.
Yeah.
I hated to see the kid from
I don't
Indiana
think the Raiders
go there.
like themselves, honestly. And they keep moving towns and stuff, yeah.
They do. But, it was there's been some fun AFC West. And the Chiefs held their own. How many years in a row was it?
It was a lot. I mean, Andy Reid basically. I don't know if it got to double digit. It was close, if not. But I mean, it's rare for Andy Reid not to make the play. Last year was strange. It almost felt like, I'm not gonna say this because people said it felt this way when the Chiefs were winning, but it almost felt scripted. Like, oh, they've had their run. We need to get them out. But just because we're so used to them winning, never take winning for granted, guys.
No.
Any walk of life, it is fleeting.
Yep. Don't ever take anything for granted, because just when you think you've got it, something happens and catches you off guard. And I said it's God's way of humbling us, keeping us humble.
That's right.
don't go into something, whether it's a job interview or a ball game or whatever, thinking that you've got everything whipped, because more than likely something's going to change.
That's
So,
right. And man, when I first got to know you and Jamie, it seemed like your kids were just finishing up high school, and now we've got a registered nurse and a soon-to-be professional engineer. You must be very proud of your children.
very proud. I give Jamie all the credit, not me. They've grown up to be good members of society despite me, I think. And there were times when when they were little, I was coaching basketball. Matter of fact, when they were born, she was in the NICU she was in the hospital for 3 weeks. It was the start of basketball practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can imagine driving back and forth to Columbia. I was like a ghost. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't do it at 50. I could guarantee you that. But anyway, yeah, they're growing up on us, and it's a nice phase in life. As your kids are getting to that, you're about to get your oldest in that phase where they leave the house. It's nice, but it's also sad at the same time. It's bittersweet, and we're just proud of them. We're proud of what they do. Bree's my little nurse, and she'll tell you that she got into nursing because one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is because of the things that her dad and her brother have gone through health-wise. So, it's been a blessing to see her blossom, and she just loves it. And I know that she's perky and happy all the time when she's there, but we don't get that side. Usually she calls mom on the way home, or, oh, this, da, 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 and so, but I know that she does a great job, and I've had some people that have had her as a nurse that have said some really nice things about her, so I know she's doing good. And Gabe is about to be married in a little over a month, and
Congratulations!
we're gonna gain a daughter, and that's a blessing all on its own, and we're looking forward to that. And like I said, he's got another semester left, and I know he enjoys that Baja team that you guys have jumped on board and helped support, and we appreciate that. It's been fun for him. I don't know where they're going to end up. That'll be exciting. That's why I'm retiring at the right time. We start this, what I call second family,
Mm-hmm.
when your kids have kids and they get married and go off and do things. I'm like, yep, I don't have anything on my calendar this week. I'm going to hook on the camper. I'll be back next week and take off and go visit and have some fun.
Sounds great, man. And we've got 2 Jasons in this podcast room. It wasn't long ago when I had Jamie in this podcast room. I learned about a third that we call Camping Jason.
Oh,
What can you tell us about Camping Jason?
For some reason, the kids and her swear by this, that when I get to a campground, I turn to a complete different person. And honestly, to be honest with you, I really think that I just get relaxed. I shut everything off, all the stress that I've carried all week or school year. We're going Monday. I can't wait. I cannot wait. But they say I'm grumpy most of the time when I'm out in public. But when I get to the campground, I'm everybody's friend. And so I just try to help out. I'm going to tell a funny story. This is a Jason story right here. So we were in Tennessee in the Smokies. Beautiful backdrop. We're set up in our camper. It's dark. It's pouring down rain. And these people next to us pull into their camp spot, attempt to pull in their camp spot. I bet they backed up 10 times before they finally realized, yeah, we can't do this. So in the rain, I put my sandals on. I go out, got the person out of the driver's seat, backed the camper in, got it all nice and ready to go. And they still make fun of me for that, by the way. But that's an example of being nice, Jason, right? Doesn't that sound like a nice thing
putting good out
to
in
do?
the world, yeah.
Yeah, well, they make fun of me. They say that I kick somebody out of their car, and you just get them 3 started, and I'm just the bad
Now, was
guy.
it a man or a woman that you took?
It was
out
a
of
family, and they had rented this camper, so they had no.
The only way I think that goes sideways, because I think everybody would appreciate that, is if you've got some man that feels emasculated. I'm showing off for the old lady that I can back this thing up. Because in some circles, it never really struck me that way, but in some circles, people feel like it's the manly duty to be able to back this thing up, and if I can't do it somehow, I'm less of a man.
Back in a trailer, there's a meme out there that says there's no argument like when you're trying to back the camper into the camp spot type of argument. And there's some validity to that.
Yeah.
Mrs. Haines has learned her job is to make sure I don't run anything over or hit something. But honestly, this is the truth. The smaller the camper, the harder it is to back up. And trailers are the same way.
That's
You know,
right.
you've hauled lawnmower on a little trailer and then a gooseneck. Gooseneck's obviously a lot easier to back in than the little
Doesn't
trailer.
really have a choice where it's going most of the time.
Oh
Yeah.
man, those little trailers, they get cattywampus and you can't catch up to them. So, but yeah, they like to make fun of me because my friendliness side comes out. I tell them I just store it all up and it's all coming out at one time.
Nice. Well, the next question here, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk, so I apologize
Uh-oh.
if you don't want to go there. But speaking for myself personally, I'm one that's struggled, had my ups and downs with my faith. But I got to tell you, every once in a while you'll post something inspirational on social media, or it feels like a friend that I haven't heard from in a long time reaches out to me at precisely the moment. Maybe they live 6 states away, but precisely the moment I need to hear from them, or I need to see that meme you posted or whatever. I do feel like the Lord works in mysterious ways, and whether we're always listening or not, He's always talking. But what are your thoughts?
You know, that is exactly right. And don't think that I have it all together either, because I don't.
I don't think anybody does, really.
No.
You think that you're getting ready to get knocked down a level or two.
Yes. A few years back, I've been blessed there in Salisbury. I've been a part of some men's Bible groups that have really helped grow my faith a lot. Is it to the level where I want it? No, I want it to keep growing. I think when you stop growing is when you stop believing, and I don't want that to happen. I take that so far in we have what's called the inner circle. It includes the boyfriend, the girlfriend, well, soon to be daughter-in-law, and all 4 of us. Obviously, I send 2 Bible verses every day they get every morning. Whether they read them or not, I don't know. But I don't want them to ever feel like they're not going to be exposed to that, you know. And in today's world, that's a challenge, you know. There's so many negative things out there in the world that can come at you at one time, and without faith, it's even harder, you know. And so it's difficult, and I do not have it all together. Trust me, I go through mine as well. But the key is to make sure you don't stop. You know, you keep growing. And ironically, today's Bible verse was when Jesus was throwing the seed on the path, the good ground, the rocky ground. That's kind of funny that you said that. Yeah. Literally, it just came full circle to me. So, but it's all I can do is encourage everyone, you know, to keep going, to keep believing and keep trying, you know, keep reading the Bible, hang out with godly people. And if you don't believe, try to hang out with good people, because you can surround yourself with good people and good things happen. Longtime coach, I want to say it was Jim Boeheim, said this. I think it was Jim Boeheim. I might be wrong now, and he's passed. I believe it. Didn't he pass? I know he's out of coaching.
Well, I have to fact check that. I'm not sure.
Anyway, he said, if you surround yourself with good people, great things happen. And I always tried to surround myself with people that were smarter than me, that were better at doing things to me, and that makes me look better. So, you know, the same thing with our faith. Try to surround yourself with people that are more faithful than you, and they're going to help build you up and not break you down.
Tremendous advice. Man, really appreciate you spending time with us today, and the contributions of your entire family, not just to our family's business, but to the communities. An educator, a coach, an athletic director. Your wife is tremendous at helping us with people as we're building culture here and doing all the things we want to do with our business. Think about your kids. Registered nurse, that takes a special person. I married a nurse, and they are special people. It's not for everybody. They're very necessary people, and we're blessed to have nurses around us that care. And then I think about your son. I got to meet him again recently in the context of this Baja project, and I could just see him blossoming into this young man that I know you're very proud of, because he not only has the analytical stuff that you need to be an engineer, but I can tell he's developing those soft people skills. There's 2 types of intelligence. There's more than that, but you've got the academic stuff, the traditional stuff that you can measure with a test score, and then you've got relational intelligence. How can I motivate a team to accomplish a shared task? And I think he's really came a long ways in the few years that I've known him, in a short amount of time.
And that's a growth thing like you talked about. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you talk about how blessing that we are. You don't know what blessing it was to have Jamie work for you guys. She's enjoyed every minute of it, and it was a godly thing of her applying for the job. You may not know all that, but someday we'll sit down and talk about that. But, it's been a blessing for her to be here, and for our family as, to be a part of this whole organization and be a part of the team, and we just appreciate everything you guys are doing too.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us on Hot Dipped.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for watching Hot Dipped. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell for future episodes.